Cybersecurity today, everybody thinks is an anchor, holding you back, holding you in place, not letting you do what you want to do. But the reality is, we want to open you up. We want to lift that anchor and have it stabilize the boat and actually have it keep the boat steady and stable through heavy waves. So when attacks come, when incidents come, the anchor security, cybersecurity, actually stabilizes the company. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know I have people coming from all around the world, so I sort of say good day, but I don't know, good day doesn't seem to sound so good, so I'll just do a triple play for you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. But before we jump in, you know what's coming. I have a question for you. Do you know what time it is? Do you know what time it is? It is time, my friends. It is time. It is time for Life of a CISO. With yours truly, Dr. E is in the house. And probably lately, some of the topics have looked a little strange or a little weird. Like today, we're going to talk about where are you? Where are you at? And it sort of seems a strange question when we're talking about being a Chief Information Security Officer, as I like to put it, being a chief officer focused on information security. Now, it's crazy, but this is our 245th episode. Been doing this for over 4 years. So those of you that have been with me for a while know that I sort of go through cycles. I sort of look at life, podcasts, anything you do, sort of seasons, right? You sort of go through 4 different seasons of it. And what I do here is I'll go through a season where I'll talk a lot about the chief officer piece. And I'll talk a lot about the information security piece. And I'll talk a lot about sort of mindset and a lot about sort of career. And we're sort of in the season of career right now, where I'm sort of talking about where are you at in your career? Where are you currently going? Because here's the reality. If we don't know where you're at, we could make a fatal mistake and give you the wrong directions. This is one of the things I've learned early on in my coaching career. Early on when I was doing coaching, I would notice that I would sometimes get different results. Sometimes students were really, really happy, and sometimes they're a little frustrated. I'm like, what's good? There has to be something broken, because if something is working and repeatable and systemized, it should always get predictable results. When you get unpredictable results, it means the system is broken or there is no system. So I started going back going, what's going on? And what I realized is early on in coaching, I always assumed that everybody was at a certain point. I assumed that everyone that came in basically were security engineers with 3 to 5 years experience and were looking to become a chief information security officer. So that's where I'd start the conversation. But I'd realize that sometimes we're getting folks with business degrees that want to move into cyber. Or we sometimes get CISOs at medium-sized companies that want to move to large. Or even have CISOs at very large organizations that you would know that are looking to better integrate and transition into a actual board role in the company, to actually be a corporate officer, to actually be a real chief officer. So I really get a variety of different students. So what I learned is on the first coaching call, what I must always do is understand where you're currently at. And I sort of look at it, is there's sort of 3 potential areas. And I use a lot of boat analogies. You know, my company, Secure Anchor, right? Water, ocean. And one of the things people don't know is the reason why I call it the Secure Anchor is many people misunderstand the role of an anchor. I always thought an anchor was to hold a boat in place. Right? You drop the anchor into the water, you put it into the ground, and it holds you in place so you don't move. So if you're sleeping or if you're away from the boat will stay in one spot. But the reality is, that's not the only use of the anchor. An anchor is also to stabilize the boat. An anchor is very, very heavy and is strategically placed on the boat to stabilize the boat. If you had a boat, you look at a big sailboat, normally the anchor is in the front. If you took that anchor off, the boat would actually be top heavy. It actually wouldn't sail very well, or it could actually tip over. So the anchor is actually strategically placed with a specific weight to balance and offset the boat. Anchors balance the system. And that's why I call it secure anchor, because to me, cybersecurity is balance. And what I like about the hidden meaning of it is most people think security is to hold you back, dragging an anchor, right? So most people have a misconception of anchors where they think it's meant to hold you in place when really an anchor is meant to stabilize you. And I thought that was so appropriate because to me, that's the reality of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity today, everybody thinks is an anchor, holding you back, holding you in place, not letting you do what you want to do. But the reality is we want to open you up. We want to lift that anchor and have it stabilize the boat and actually have it keep the boat steady and stable through heavy waves. So when attacks come, when incidents come, the anchor security, cybersecurity, actually stabilizes the company and keeps it to be able to grow. So just sort of an interesting perspective. So if we use our boat analogy, a boat to me can be in three basic places. It can be in port, where it's basically safe, either anchored or in dock. It can be at sea, just sort of sailing around, like recreational, or it could be on a mission, where it's actually going to a specific location. And to me, if you look at being a chief information security officer, which of those three are you currently at? And let me sort of tie it together. So when you're docked or anchored or in port, you basically are just focusing on maintenance, cleaning, and getting the boat ready to go out to sea. Right? So you're basically, this would be if you're just sort of putting out fires or just sort of, I'm a chief security officer, but I'm not really sure the mission or the focus of the company. You're just sort of there, sort of have that title to check a box, but you're not really engaged, or you're not actually a CISO yet. You're a security engineer and you're looking to become a CISO. Then we get you where you are a chief information security officer, you know your position and title. But once again, you're just dealing with reactionary. It's very reactionary mode, where most of your time is just dealing with new incidents, new problems, new firefightings, just sort of monitoring and analyzing and dealing with alerts. So you're at sea, but you're just sort of sailing around. And then where I want to get you, and most people aren't here, and I wasn't there for a long time. That was one thing why I struggled as a CISO, because I was out sea, but I had no mission or focus. So to me, being a world-class chief information security officer means you have a very specific mission. I'm going to help the company increase its revenue by 15% with 40% margins. That's a mission. That's a focus. And I know that sounds absurd to many cybersecurity folks because we're always thinking technical. But the reality is we're chief officers. And chief officers have targets and have missions. Chief officers are all about health, success, and growth of the company. So the reality is, do we actually have a clear target? Do we have a clear number that we're trying to hit? And this, to me, is when you know you're a successful chief officer. When you're a real successful chief officer, and some people might get offended, but it's when a majority of your income comes from performance, not salary. Because the reality is, people that are just working at a company are salary. They might get a small bonus, but a majority of their income is their salary. When you're chief officers, where you're focused on execution and delivery, a majority of your compensation actually comes from performance. The better the company performs, the more money you make. That's why if you go in and you follow any of the richest people in the world, right? They always go in and they'll tell you it changes. And you might be thinking, wait a second. If I have money in a bank, it would grow, right? A little bit each year, but it basically stay the same. So you would think the richest person is always the richest person. But no, they calculate it not on money they actually have, but the worth of the investment in their company. So if you go in like with Elon right now, Tesla stock is struggling a little bit, and they're like, he lost $5 billion in net worth. He's still the richest dude, but he lost $5 billion. So notice, his net worth is based on performance of the company. Interesting, right? So that's the mindset of a chief officer. Chief officers are compensated primarily on performance, on how the company is doing. So that's one thing for you to sort of think about this week, is just sort of where you're at. And then the question comes down to is, what are your targets and what are your objectives? Where are you spending most of your time? And what I do is, when I'm assessing where you're at, so once we currently get very clear on where you are at, and just be open and honest, because here's the reality. You can look at any situation, you can look at anyone's life, and you can put a positive or a negative spin on it, because you're adding emotions into it, right? Because guess what? Everyone has successes and everyone has failures. So a simple example, if you look at somebody who is getting paid a lot of money, but maybe they just got into a car accident, or maybe they got a speeding ticket. So you can go in, and if you're looking at it big picture, you could be like, wow, they're very successful, because the speeding ticket is inconsequential. But if you look at it at a micro level, you're like, oh, they're having a rough week, or they're having a rough day. All right? So it's, once again, it's framing and perspective. What I want you to do here is take the emotion out of it. I just want you to look at the facts. So just look at the facts. What is your current title? What is your current salary? What is your current satisfaction? Right? This is a little emotional, but overall, are you happy with your career? Are you frustrated? Is it on track? Is it off track? You're gathering data. Now, for the first two, one of the biggest things is looking at trending data. So I want you to go back, and many people don't do this, but it's a very valuable exercise. I want you to go back for the last 5 years and look at your job title. Is it the same or has it changed? What has your been salary for the last 5 years? This is not judgment. It's not criticism. I'm not trying to have anyone feel bad. This is just awareness, just sort of waking you up. So let's sort of look at it. If you've been a CISO for 5 years and the title's been the same for 5 years, and your salary's been relatively the same, maybe you've had a 5 or 7% increase every couple of years, but it's generally been steady state. That is basically, you're in a career track. Now, if that's your goal, right, to essentially make that amount of money and it's working for you and putting away, that's perfectly fine. You're cruising altitude. That's good, right? Nothing wrong with being at cruising altitude. So if you're at a cruising altitude where basically, if we're going from the US to Europe, there's a lot of work and a lot of energy to get the plane in the air. But once you get to cruising altitude, say 37,000 square feet, the next 3 to 4 hours is pretty easy on the pilot. I mean, they still have to monitor, they still have to track, but basically there's not a lot of work to do. And then they have to get ready for landing, which is a lot of work. So being at cruising altitude, nothing wrong with that. On the other hand, if you look at the last 5 years, and 5 years ago you were in college, 4 years ago you were an intern, 3 years ago you were a level 1 SOC analyst, 2 years ago you were level 2 SOC analyst, and now you're a level 3 SOC analyst. And your salary basically went from 0 to 100K. You're still in takeoff. You're still taking off, which is good, because at some point we do want to get you to cruising altitude, right, where you have a clear target. But right now you're just sort of taking off. So nothing wrong. It's just awareness, because these are going to drive different decisions. These are going to drive how you act and how you behave. Then, once we understand that, we know sort of where you're at, we have the historical data, we're tracking and monitoring it, then we want to step back and say, okay, ask 3 questions based on our goals and our purpose. And I'll summarize here, but we've covered this in previous episodes. If you want to be world-class, you should be thinking at least 15 years into the future. One of my favorite questions I always love asking anybody whenever I'm meeting somebody or at a party or conversational piece. Most people are like, oh, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? I'm like, what is your 15-year goal? And the crazy part is, it throws most people. Like people like actually caught off guard. I even had some people go, really? That's what you're going to ask me? I'm like, I didn't think it was a bad question, right? I'm excited about where I'm going to be in 15 years. I thought that's a good thing. Right? I didn't think that was a negative or something we should hide or not tell anybody, right? But the reality is, most of us are not thinking that far out. So if you're not there, that's the first thing you want to start doing, is just start going 15. Now, if that's too hard for you, 10, 5, 3, but the reality is you want to start pushing it out as far as possible. Now, there's different types of people. Some of us are sort of bottom up. So like if I go in and I'm sort of like, where do you want to be in 15 years? Almost impossible. So in those cases, I'm going to say, okay, what's like one thing you want to do this month? Just one thing. I mean, the careers. Is there anything sort of this career? Do you want to sort of read a book? Do you want to complete a project? Do you want to meet with your executive? Just what's one thing you want to do this month? And then, okay, how about this quarter in 3 months? Well, what's sort of a bigger goal? And then you do 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and then you start pushing out to 2 years and 3 years and 4 years. So some people like that. Others are the opposite. If I start telling them, what do you want to accomplish this month? They're like, oh, Eric, I'm just stressing out. I just want to get through the day. I just want to get through the day. So those are like, okay, let's take a deep breath. A month is too much pressure. So let's take all the pressure off. Let's dream. Let's just get on our magic carpet with Aladdin, right? A whole new world. And just sort of close your eyes and just sort of dream for a little bit. Is, okay, in a perfect world, what is sort of ideally you'd want to be in 5 or 10 or 15 years? Like just like generally, what amount of money do you want to make? What sort of title? What kind of job? And once again, no judgment. It's not written in stone. You're not signing a contract. It can change and be modified. But just generally get you thinking. So either way, we want to get that locked in. We want to get clear on sort of where you're going. And then you basically say, okay, am I on track? And you basically ask a series of 3 questions. what do I need to keep doing, right? What's working? What are things that are working that I need to keep doing? What are things that I need to stop doing? What are things that are not really on target, not really helping me out? And then the last one is, what do we need to start doing? So we need to continue doing. Sorry, I think I mixed it up on you. So first thing is, what do we need to continue doing? So what are we doing that's working? We continue doing. What do we need to stop doing, and what do we need to start doing? So what are things that we're currently doing that are working? What are things that we need to stop doing? And then what are things that we need to continue? So we basically continuing, starting, and stopping. 3 things. So step back and sort of say, okay, 3 categories. And sort of start getting a handle on things. And then what world-class CISOs do is they basically become very aware and they start aligning everything they're doing. And I've told the story before, but it's been a while. So I'll sort of give it again because it's a great analogy. And it's basically how I live my life. And essentially, it's every day when I'm doing things and I'm planning things and I'm looking at my calendar, I'm essentially asking a simple question. Will this make my boat go faster? And this is an analogy from a story. It's actually a book called Will It Make My Boat Go Faster? And I'll give you sort of the quick breakdown of it. So this was, I believe, back in 2000 when the Olympics were in Sydney, Australia, the Summer Olympics in Sydney, Australia. Now, the British rowing team decided to do something different. What they decided to do for the 2000 Olympics is, instead of having everyone try out for different boats, there's like a 1-person boat, I think a 2-person, a 4-person, and a 6-person. I might get the numbers wrong, but pretty close to that. So in the past, if you were trying out for the Olympic team, you'd be trying out for one of those specific areas. But for the 2000 Olympics, they said, we're not going to do that. Everybody is going to try out single because we want to see how you do individually, what your strengths and weaknesses are. Then the top rowers go single. The next rowers go into the doubles. The next go into the quad, and whatever is left over, right, those folks go into the 6. So you can imagine the folks in the 6 crew boat have a little chip on their shoulder, right? That they weren't the top, right? They still made the Olympics, but they weren't the top. And they all got together once they were formed as a team, and they said, what is our goal? What is our target? And they all basically looked at each other, and it was amazing what synergy they had. But they all basically became very clear and said, listen, gold or bust. Everyone said, we're not here for silver. We're not here for bronze. We're not here for 4th place. We're here for one reason and one reason alone, to win gold medal. So they basically decided their target was a gold medal. There was only winning or losing. There wasn't 3 places. It was gold or they lost. And then they said, okay, in order for us to win gold, what do we have to do? And they went through a bunch of stuff and they summarized and realized, okay, if we want to win gold, it's simple. We have to be the fastest boat on the water. Pretty obvious, right? The fastest boat on the water is going to win. So they went in and said, okay, what if everything, now this was, I believe, 2 years before the Olympics, so 1998. So for 2 years, everything they did in their life was driven by a simple question. Will this make the boat go faster? So they're going in and friends ask, hey, you want to go out tonight, grab some drinks? They step back and go, will that make the boat go faster? The reality is no, so they don't do it. Okay, somebody said, do you want to get up at 4 a.m. and go for a 2-mile run? Will that make the boat go faster? Absolutely. It'll increase my endurance. It'll increase my strength and legs, so we do that. So essentially, they were so obsessed with their target and so obsessed with their goal that everything they did was, will it make the boat go faster? Now, it's okay to have fun. It's okay to do things that aren't there. So there are times where there'll be activities that come up, and I'll ask myself, will it make the boat go faster? No, but is it important? Does a friend or family member need me? Is it something that'll help me out? Absolutely. But here's the reality. It's the granularity of the question. So as many of you probably know, I sort of break down my targets into 4 areas. All right, we talk about sort of body, health, mindset, being, relationships and balance, and then revenue and business. So if I'm focused on business only, if I'm only focused on being a chief information security officer, then there might be things that I have to do with family or I have to do with body that is going to impact the ability for the boat to go faster. For example, if I have to go on a vacation, technically, leaving work for a week is not going to help my boat go faster in business. But it's going to help my boat go faster in relationships. But here's the cool part. You should also have a target for your life. Now, if the target for your life is to be a CISO at a Fortune 50 company, then it's a different frame. Now you might go in and say, but Eric, if I'm taking a week off from work, will that make the boat go faster? And the answer is yes, and here's why. To be a CISO at a Fortune 50 company, you have to have a family that supports you. You have to have clear mindset, and you have to be low stress and not overworked. Spending time with family will help you achieve that. If you only are working and you have stress in the family, you have issues with mindset, and your body's not healthy, that's going to impact your ability to be a CISO at a Fortune 50 company. So it's all the framing that you're putting in place where you're stepping back saying, okay, I might have individual goals, but what is the overall target? And it's nothing wrong with having multiple targets. So nothing wrong with saying, okay, my overall targets for my life is in 15 years to have a family with 3 kids and 2 houses, driving this car and having 10 amazing friends, and to be a CISO at a Fortune 50 company. So now, when you have sort of all those targets, now will it make the boat go faster? Will it help achieve all of those goals? Now, ideally, you want to always say yes. But sometimes I do things like, for example, I don't think I hide it. I like ice cream and sweets. I just love candy. I love the flavored Tootsie Rolls, the orange or the lime, the flavored. I don't like the chocolate ones, but they have the flavored ones. Oh, they're amazing. And I buy them in 5-pound bulks. It's great. And once again, 2 or 3 a day. I don't go crazy, but I just like a little bit of sugar after my workout. And you sort of argue, okay, is eating ice cream really helping the boat go faster? No. But do I enjoy it? Is a small amount okay? And does ultimately sort of make you happy? Absolutely. So once again, it's not a judgment, it's an awareness. So this week, I want you to do a few things. I want you to sort of figure out where you're at. Are you in port, at sea, or on a mission? And I want you to look at your current life and say, okay, what do I need to keep doing? What do I need to stop doing? And what do I need to start doing? And then just get an awareness as you go through the day. Just ask yourself as you're doing things, will this make the boat go faster? In the beginning, you might still have to do things that don't, but slowly over time, you'll adjust your life and you'll adjust your schedule so you can be a world-class CISO.